Welcome to
Yeah, welcome. Philly.night.
Philly.night. All right, so I was told to be quiet until we started. I wanted to share with Chris. I went through and this is not technical. We're just this isn't technical, Chris. This isn't about Git or anything like that. But last week I went through my, I have an Xbox One. You actually know I have two Xbox Ones. I have a Day One version and I have a Halo 5 version. Yeah. My Halo 5, the power brick died. Oh. Right, completely dead. I went to play it on Saturday night, wouldn't work. So I ended up figuring out it was the power brick because I took the one from my Day One edition and moved it to that one, and I went, oh, perfect, the thing works. So I had a choice: get a $30 power brick off of Amazon, non-Xbox brand,
right? Sure,
or buy a One X. So,
oh yes, because those are very comparable price points too.
Yes,
they're mutually exclusive, right?
500 versus 30. So I looked, I did some research, and I could get a 1X with what I thought was one game initially, for like $500, and then if Red Dead Redemption 2 is, right. If you buy that, yep, you get $100 off. Then you add the game back in, so it's like $480
right.
plus tax.
Saved a couple dollars, got 2 or 3 games or something like that.
Yeah, so I ended up calling around to all these places saying, "Hey, I got this Xbox One. The console works. The power brick doesn't work. Oh, we can't take it. Blah blah blah." So on last Thursday, I go over to Microsoft Store and I go, I walk in and I'm like, I want, because I couldn't find it online anymore because it said it was sold out, which was weird because the day before it wasn't. I said, I want the Xbox One X Forza edition. And they said, yeah. Oh. So they went in the back and they said they had 3. And they brought it out. It actually has Forza Horizon yep. 4, Forza Motorsport 7.
Wow.
And then they had the special edition of Red Dead Redemption.
Oh, wow. So you've got 3 brand new games.
So I got 3 new games and a 1X. And I was talking to her. Awesome lady at Terra in the King of Prussia Microsoft Store, by the way. She was. I explained the situation to her, and she said, "No, we'll give you something back for it." When I talked to somebody on the phone, so I ended up getting like an amount like $77 back or $75 or whatever it was back for my for my Xbox One trading in. So $430 later, that's with tax.
Yeah.
I got 3 games and a 1X.
That's quite a haul. So anyways, welcome to our after show, after Philly.net. Probably a lot of you know me. I'm Chris Gomez, and we also have...
I'm Tony Bergoldi. I'm the loudmouth of Philly.net, other than Bill.
And then in the producer's chair, we have...
Oh, great. I wasn't lined up to
he's
do
not
a shot
anymore.
On me. I know, right?
We have Rich Ross back there. And so
here we go.
This show is...
And there's Rich Ross on camera.
So we did get the camera working this time. It took a little bit of... We had a little bit of... learning curve, if you will, the first time around, but at least we were able to get a camera. We got a mic. We're doing a live stream. If I go to, let's see.
Can you see the chat back there, Mr. Producer?
I do. I have the chat going here. I actually have the, if I switch to this, you can see this is the screen we've got from the mixer side.
Very nice.
So a little bit delayed, but at least it's up there. So let me see if I can get you guys back up online, show your pretty faces. There you go.
There we go.
Yeah, so tonight we talked about Git Tools. Yep. And specifically Rob Kaiser had a great introduction to Visual Studio Code and using the PoshGit command line, the shell edition. I really liked his part of the night, and that's about all I had to say about that because I wasn't happy at all with
I thought you both did very well. I was watching from outside like normal. Yeah, and listening and monitoring.
I find this to be a really challenging part of teaching Git, believe it or not. I actually think it's easier to teach the command line part because it's universal. You can take it and use it anywhere on any machine, and it's also teaching the concepts. Whereas I'm sitting there and I felt kind of bad because even though I'd gone through GitHub Desktop, I couldn't get my brain back into that context and remember where things were because my daily driver is the command line plus a little bit of Git Kraken for context, especially to see that graph. But Git is such a challenging topic for developers. I mean, source control is kind of challenging anyway.
It's a scary monster for some people.
Yeah, and like I think even before Git, you had messy merge conflicts.
Yes.
And
for 20 years.
Right. Or you had, I know I checked in this code, but then yet when everyone else pulled it back out, it's broken.
Yep.
That's not new to source control. But I think with Git, you throw that in with the distributed nature and, it's a big mess.
Well, and I think a lot of people are accustomed to, like, the hardest challenge for me between, like, say, a TFS, a local, where you have every file in there versus Git, where it's, there's these different little pointers that we're just going to move around. So you don't really have every file in that that repository of like, here's a labeled version and it has every file. It's not really that way anymore, and that I think poses a challenge when people do the command line. They're like, oh, what's this command really going to do? What's it going to affect? Because I don't have a file per se. I have maybe a pointer that's and I know I get there's certain commands that I feel very comfortable doing in Git, and there are certain tools outside of a command line that I feel very comfortable using. But when it comes to some of the Git stuff, I'm like, I don't know. And I have to end up asking somebody else.
Yeah, I mean
Chris.
The base building block in Git is the commit.
Mm-hmm.
Everything flows from the commit, and there's a lot of myths about it, such as I've seen this myth kind of gets when you're using the command line in the terminal. And you maybe clone something down, or maybe you push a new commit and it'll say something like 6 changes. People begin to say, I've heard this said as, Git only stores the changes. And that's provably not true. Git actually stores every file. You can find the hash for every file even. There's a command. Yeah, there's a command where you can ask it to break down a commit for you.
Oh, yeah.
And it shows you all of the blobs, which is just a fancy term for the files.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows you all of the trees, which is just a fancy term for the folders.
Okay.
But the reason why they abstract it is because, well, first of all, this is like kind of Linus Torvalds being Linus, is he wants to think of Git as an abstract concept even from the file system that it's representing.
Yes.
So even though we always use it on file systems, it doesn't have to be. I just don't know what else you would use it on. I understand, but that's very
it's either Linux or Windows or.
But isn't that an operating system writer's way of thinking, right? I'll abstract even.
I guess so.
I abstract Git from the file system itself in a way.
Yeah.
And I don't want to try and pretend here like you're getting a crash course in the internals, because I've only learned enough of the Git internals to make myself comfortable that I know what every command's going to do. To your point.
Yes.
I learned just enough internals so that every time I do something, I have confidence. I know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then even better, even when I surprise myself and say, whoops, I have those couple commands that I have.
You can kind of
quickly at my fingertips. Create a branch from any commit just by knowing the hash. That's kind of my resurrect tool.
Interesting.
Like, oops, I didn't mean to delete that and have that whole line of commits disappear.
Excuse me.
Other developers would immediately freak out and say, oh my God, I deleted those commits. And it's like, well, they're not visible. But if you say git checkout and you throw the hash in.
Like the previous hash.
Yeah. Now,
so I would think
how
roll
would you know
back
that hash,
is,
right?
Yeah, I wouldn't know that hash, but
well,
I would think about rolling back stuff to like undo. But I struggle with that. I'm very cautious, and
the way you know the hash
look at things
is
and
git ref log is how you know the hash.
Git ref
the ref log
okay.
is the transaction log of Git. So this is something that SQL developers instinctively get when I explain it this way.
Yeah.
Is in SQL, when you do a query, when you do an insert, like my brain doesn't think this way. I think of, well, I went to the table and I found the row and I found the column and I put something in there. Okay. That's not what's in the transaction log.
Oh, jeez.
The transaction log is the exact like steps. And again, I'm not a real SQL expert.
Okay.
Well, the git ref log thinks that way. So when you deleted a branch and those commits went away and you freak out, you could say git ref log and you will probably find that commit and you'll go, oh, okay, and you can resurrect it, which again, we can't, we're not going to do here.
Yeah.
But that's the kind
Chris
of stuff that I'm going to cover.
A laptop.
Yeah, we don't have a laptop. We were arguing about a good laptop because
you are in the market for buying a laptop.
I am in the market for a small 13-inch developer's laptop.
Developer's laptop. So, like, what do you, other than developer's laptop, I mean, what are you looking for?
Yeah.
Like, how much memory?
Right.
And...
So
Yeah,
I
right.
think today, this is my thinking. I think a developer's laptop needs to have. I'm just going to throw these two things out there.
Okay.
I think it needs to be at least 16 gigs of RAM and a 512 gig SSD.
So I have, so what I use is a personal developer's laptop. I have, pardon me, I have 8 gigs of RAM, and I don't know if it's either, I think it may only be 256, right, but it might be 512. It's one of those two, but
I think it's possible.
You know,
to live
so,
with
but
that,
yeah, exactly. I'm not running VMs.
Right.
I'm not. I'm not doing anything powerful. It's not my work machine. Like my work machine, what my company provide me is 32 gigs of memory.
Oh no, that's great.
That's
great.
I think it's either 512 or a terabyte. I don't,
that's awesome.
So, I mean, that is a beast, but it's also 15 inches, and it's heavy. When I was in the market for a laptop, I ended up buying the Surface laptop.
Yeah.
Their first one, not number 2, but and I thought, and I went mid-range. I think I did the i5, and maybe it is the 256, and then the 8. So,
yeah. I'm currently crammed into. Well, not crammed. I'm hanging in there. I currently have a 256 SSD C drive at home.
Okay.
It's hanging in there after installing Visual Studio and all the tools.
256 is pretty tight.
It's
You got to manage it.
There's like 90 gigs left, and
it's a lot.
I bite my fingernails every now and then and go check. How much do I have left? Should I go run disk cleanup? Which I heard is going away.
I don't think you need to run disk cleanup anymore.
Sometimes I run disk cleanup.
Really?
Sometimes I go like, look, 12 gigs back.
Wow.
I could turn off restore points.
Oh wait, disk cleanup. Yeah. I do run disk cleanup.
Man,
it's hard to find. It's not right. It doesn't jump out at you anymore. You have to do a search.
And I did turn off restore points because I thought, I'll save myself 12 gigs.
You turned off restore points.
I did it, so I didn't anymore.
Okay.
I did it until about a year and a half ago when one day the computer just. And if I had a restore point, I would have been fine.
Windows 10 or 7?
Nah, it was like 8.1 or something.
Oh well.
So now I don't turn off.
Now
I don't turn off restore points anymore. Because that was disaster.
I only had one issue. I go through every once in a while and I'll clean up. You can, like in Windows 10, you can go in and you can say delete previous versions of Windows 10.
Yeah.
Right. And I've done that. And
like 30 gigs.
Yeah, pretty much. And maybe sometimes more. Yeah. And the one time I really needed it, I had done it. I couldn't restore my machine because it's like, I'm sorry, I have nothing for you. And then I had to remember how to set up a USB stick because I think you don't want to, word of advice, don't set it up as NTFS when you put Windows 10 on there because it's not going to boot from that. It has to be a FAT32 to boot from. So, yeah, that was my, I think I ended up pulling my hair out for half the day and then going over to the Microsoft store and getting help from those guys. And I asked them about their USB because I said, I have a USB at home and it's not working. And he recommended calling it, I think, naming it, labeling it boot. But then he just happened to mention something about FAT32.
Yeah,
and I was like,
I think that's right.
Duh.
I think that's right. So Bill talked about Code Camp coming up next weekend. Yep. So not
Friday and Saturday.
Yeah. The following Saturday and Friday and Saturday.
Not this Friday and Saturday. So not the what's today's date?
I don't know.
Right. So today's the 7th. This would be the 16th.
7, 8. What's that?
We're
the
professionals
16th and
here.
17th.
16th, 17th. And when we ended the stream, we actually did the fade out on that was the the going live next being 8 days. 12 hours and whatever it is, down to 8 o'clock on Friday morning. So, so at least we, gave that heads up there. We're gonna do, as Bill mentioned, the live stream for All Day Friday, which is gonna be awesome.
Git with Chris. So if you're not sure about Git, tune in Friday. Chris will amaze you.
Bill tells me at the last meetup that we had, he says, "So hey, I was gonna stream your room. No pressure now."
Yeah.
Not only does he have 50 people staring at him in person, he'll have all of you people online staring at him.
Asking questions, doing all those good things, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's in depth. You know, it's called Git in GitHub with an intro to Azure DevOps, but let me tell you, it's 80% Git. We're going to explore very briefly, you know, how it really works. What all those hashes aren't just made up. Like Linus just doesn't pick them out. He doesn't roll dice. Those are hashes of the content.
I think he does sometimes.
They're hashes of the content, right? I often like to make the joke that Git is the source control Linus wrote for Linus. Like it solved his problem.
It definitely is.
It solved his problem, and now we're all stuck with it.
And now he's off doing anger management.
Yeah. That's what I've heard. That was an amazing post from him about stepping away from Linux for a bit.
Yes.
And then Saturday,
Linux, again, you were saying about Git being the source control he wanted. Linux was what he wanted also.
Sure,
really,
absolutely. This is the OS I wish it worked this way.
Yes. This is what OS 2 was supposed to be.
Well, you know, the influence of Linux on Windows, I think that's an interesting conversation too. But maybe we should talk real quick. So Friday, all day, Friday is me.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'd be happy if you join me. And then Saturday we have a lineup.
However, we do have 5 tracks. 5 or 6 tracks happening on Friday. Also, they won't be streamed. You definitely want to tune in for Chris. But we have other good speakers and topics that.
It's a great.
If you're here, if you can make it, that'd be awesome.
It's an awesome.
I think we've already sold the tickets out on that.
Yes, we already sold them out. But I'm saying if you're scheduled to come, definitely make it.
Yeah.
You know, no matter what. So. And
then Saturday we're streaming from one room.
Yep.
It's called the Envisioning Center. It's a beautiful room.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately I'd have it disconnected and not lit up. Otherwise, we could have done a quick video or look in of that room and see what it looks like, because this is all connected to the studio back here, which gets us to what we're going to do for Saturday, which is everything, all the content we're doing out of the Envisioning Center, we're going to stream, but also we get that intermission piece where, you know, 75 minutes of session, 15 minutes of transitions, everybody finds the next room they want to be in, and that gives us a great opportunity to talk to some of the speakers, some of the attendees, and to do a little bit of additional fill-in and take advantage of the studio space here for the Code Camp piece as well. So
yeah, we're gonna try to make it look like a show.
I know, right?
Compete kind of with the great stuff Channel 9 does, or.
Well, that's the inspiration, right?
Well, like when you watch Build, you know, you watch Build or Ignite, and they leave the session.
Yep.
And then you know Seth Juarez is there, and he's awesome, and he's got some guests, and
Hey, can I be Seth in that situation?
Sure.
We could be the poor man's version of that. How about that?
Definitely a very poor man's
Seth was great. I was fortunate enough to meet him once, and he's awesome.
He used to come to our Code Camps.
Yeah, he did.
He came to
he
like
was
3
local
or 4
for a little while.
Yep, he was.
But now Seattle, right?
Seattle,
Redmond.
yeah. Or Redmond. Yeah, I guess Seattle,
Redmond.
Yeah, same thing.
I don't know what the Microsoft folks refer to their trips out there as.
It depends where you're going.
Mothership.
The mothership, I guess. Right. Right.
So Code Camp's gonna be awesome. I think we got a good bit of content there. So tune in for that. Certainly feel free to ask your questions there. Much like we did when we did the Tech Bash piece, where we had people, you know, ask questions even after the fact. We got speakers in to answer some of those things offline, which was pretty great.
Yeah, and Code Camp, either all the tickets are gone or they're very close. Everything's gone.
So
Saturday's gone.
Friday's all sold out, and well, all of it, everything is closed right now. From a speaker and an attendee perspective. Saturday, for the not the first time, but we did ask for a payment for Saturday, but we are limiting our numbers this year. So Code Camp is a little smaller both on Friday and Saturday. Just to try and make it a little bit more manageable. It has been growing, and we know a lot of you out there like it and love it, and we really appreciate that. In fact, you know, those who said, geez, $20 for Saturday, you know what? We don't, this year we actually don't have the sponsorship like we have in the years past, where you have 2 sponsors. So please visit those sponsors when you come and visit, when you're actually here. But I mean, you're supporting the Code Camp this year. You guys are the ones who are doing it. You know, for Friday, just some logistics, just so you know. You know, if you're here, we will have you know, breakfast and lunch. We do have a party on Friday night, and Saturday we also have breakfast and lunch. No after party though on Saturday.
So we do still have a Friday party. I thought
Friday is for, yes. I apologize. It is for the speakers and the crew, I guess. But there is a little bit of a get
yeah,
together.
well, we just announced.
No, you're talking at Cookham. You have a topic, or because you've done the topic a few times that I think are they're off the beaten path. You're not saying like introduction to some language or some technology. Yeah. You've done like career paths and interviews.
Yep. So I'm not doing that this time around.
I wasn't sure if you were. Sorry, I should
no,
have done my research.
No, that's fine.
Because I like to talk.
You know
about
what? It's
those
like
things.
me putting my foot in my mouth
But I
over
like to
the.
talk about those things.
No, it's a good point. So I had 2 talks scheduled. I had a talk for career advice again, which I like giving because it is off the beaten path, and I do think technical people struggle with it sometimes. In fact, one of the words of advice I always give and that I haven't been living up to is interview every year. Well, I've been at my current company for 2.5 years and I haven't interviewed once.
Interview every year. Now, why is that? Year.
So the reason I say interview every year is 2 reasons. One is you feel comfortable when you need to interview, so that you're like, oh, I feel comfortable sitting down across from Chris and Chris, giving me these questions, but not just that I can be able to ask Chris questions about the company. So that's one thing. You want that comfortability. And the other thing is just to know what the market has out there. Is my skill set good? Are people looking for this? Can I, is this, do I really want to change jobs? Maybe I'm actually happy with where I'm at. So, okay. And then the other topic I was going to do and I canceled both talks. I basically gave up my spot is really what I did. I gave up both my spots for other things. The other one was a technical talk. I was going to go back to technical, and it was an intro to Pivotal Cloud Foundry. So I'm learning that and becoming certified in that. Oh, cool. So I wanted to share that. I will do that as a monthly meeting. I've already talked to Bill about that. Maybe December or January. So we're looking at.
Perfect.
So we actually have people, we get this during the normal Philly.net session, so we actually have people asking questions online here. So from the chat room, Meg is asking from someone who is, as a beginner, what would be those sessions you would recommend attending from a Saturday perspective? And I don't know if you guys know.
So if I had the list in front of me.
Let's start off with what's in the Envisioning Center, right? Because those will be streamed. Yep.
So I'm trying to bring that up as well so we can go through the grid here and at least be able to show that. So
we can definitely talk about it. Now, I think, our code camp, look, there's no doubt that this group is Microsoft focused developers or generally, but even
it's web and Microsoft, I would say.
A lot of web. A lot of web. But that's branched out.
Yes.
It wasn't, if you came to a code camp 15 years ago, it would be 100% living in Visual Studio. That's not true anymore.
Yeah,
that's not true anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's definitely going to be stuff that's important to those developers. But I'm not saying that I think we want it to be more broad. We want it to attract all technology.
Yeah,
hey, Rich,
and there are some.
Actually make that.
I'm trying to bring it up too.
Yeah, just bring that up on so they can just see that as opposed to us.
So you can get to this. You can probably see the URL there. Go to Philly.net. Or Philly.net, all spelled out as one word, .org, and then that will get you to the place where you can get to, as Bill referred to as the hamburger menu, and then be able to select the schedule and then flip to Saturday. A lot of the sessions in their titles there, if you look through them, they say, hey, we're for beginners, we're for introduction or an intermediate type level session. So Azure Web for Beginners would be one I would certainly recommend. Rob McKenna is an awesome knows that topic very well, having seen him speak at the Philly Azure user group. So that's one that I would certainly recommend from a beginner perspective. I know you guys have one to throw in.
Look at the types. Look at that TypeScript for rank beginners. And here's what I like about that one. So TypeScript is a language developed by Microsoft. In fact, the father of C#, Anders Heilsberg, is largely credited with the father of TypeScript,
Delphi.
Father of Delphi, and Turbo Pascal, right?
Pascal, yeah.
But so is it relevant to .NET and Microsoft developers? Of course. Yes. But
But it's relevant to the
it's
web.
adopted. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Angular was rewritten in TypeScript.
Yep, Angular 2 forward.
And I believe React is I think their samples now, they promote TypeScript as well as JavaScript. If not, I don't know if it's a first class. In Angular,
it's
the docs
first
are TypeScript,
class,
right?
Yeah,
they're basically like we just assume you're TypeScript.
Yeah.
So
they're all, in fact, all their templates, everything gives you TypeScript to start.
Yeah.
So.
And and here's the other thing about TypeScript moving through the ranks is that even if your backend isn't Microsoft based, let's say it's Python, maybe it's Django or it's Flask, or maybe it's some other environment, I don't care, Node, whatever. Over on the client side, we're still stuck with JavaScript or something that
I'm getting the feeling you don't like JavaScript.
No, I actually really like JavaScript. So this is one where I say, I'm not really a Microsoft person. Well, guess what? I see job postings all the time that say, oh, we're a Python shop, we're a PHP shop, but we also use TypeScript.
Yep.
Because on the front end, you have to do something. What else do we have here? Advice for developers who become managers. How interesting.
Who's doing that?
Travis Laborde, who I do know him.
Interesting. I know him too. That's kind of like what I talk about too. See, I'm making an impact that other people are doing it.
Yeah. Now, Stashu Korek has a really interesting one in the Marion room, solving Rubik's Cubes with F#. I knew this was a passion of his. His passion of his is Rubik's Cubes, but not only that, having computer programs solve them, which that I check out about right there where I go, I don't understand. I want to see it, because there was a time I actually could solve the Rubik's Cube. I have to get back into it now.
I think Statue is actually a speed solver too.
Oh yeah, I saw him talking about. I mean, I've seen his picture at events. It's amazing.
Yes, exactly.
So he's the thing I love about his presentations is he's passionate about Rubik's Cube.
Yep.
He's passionate about functional programming
and
F#.
Definitely.
It's all in one sentence there.
Yes, it is.
So
that's true.
This will be the most passionate talk possibly at Code Camp.
Yep.
So the 10 a.m. hour, Brian Manisi and Azure DevOps, and he just did that talk here, which we were just saying in the other room.
That was good.
I watched him do 2 hours of Azure DevOps and felt like I got a complete course in the whole thing. That was great. I'm gonna go watch it again.
Yeah, and he is so smart and brings it down very, very easily.
Right. Obviously, we have Jeff Fritz, program manager at Microsoft, talking about ASP.NET Core. You can't beat that directly from Jeff, right? But let's see, what else would be good? So we're talking, Meg was asking about beginners, right? So Dane Morgridge getting through the technical interview.
Oh wow!
Where's
Dane?
Interesting,
He
right?
used to do. He was the guy that did the security. with the pineapple.
Like Hack the Planet, and he would come in and he would basically show you how to do interesting. I mean.
So a very technical guy talking about,
about how do you get through a technical interview.
Very nice.
So I'm not sure if your order is different than mine, but there are a couple in there around, there's an introduction to data science that Dave Boyles is giving. There's an intro to Azure that David Patrick is giving. So some intro, some beginner level, if you're new to those platforms, those would be some good sessions as well.
And Dave Boyles, anytime it's an intro session, he has an amazing ability to bring the topic even to non-technical people,
right?
Because I think he draws on his own background as being very self-taught, and so he asks the question to himself and then translates that to the audience. Yeah, I love when he does something.
I don't think I'm sharing anything out of school. I mean, his background, he was a construction worker prior to getting his first start as a developer, and like Chris is saying, he self-taught himself that at nights and was doing stuff on the sides and basically marketed himself in a good way. Not, he didn't lie, but he took that knowledge that he was doing on all these side projects and turned it into a career. So he can definitely say, hey, you know what? If somebody wants to learn this, what do they need to know? So Chris is right. He's drawing on his background of coming from a construction worker to, being pretty much the guru guy that he is in software now.
Yep. So if you're interested in web development and beginning, and you're looking at, so this is continuing, maybe Meg or other people watching, you're looking at job postings. They don't have anything to do with Microsoft necessarily, but they have to do with React. Jess Chadwick getting started with React the easy way in the Envisioning Center.
Nice.
So that will be live.
That'll be a streamed one.
And Jess is great. So I like that one there. That's awesome. I mean, I like a lot of these. There was another one where, Tony, yours is still listed on here.
Which one?
It's still listed. The getting a job one. Where is it? What is it
Oh,
called?
I think yeah, but that's still. I think.
Let's talk about getting a job. You think it's getting bumped?
I know it got bumped. I told Bill and I talked
Wow.
about it. Unless it got put back and Bill forgot to tell me.
Forgot to tell you.
Well, where is it located? What room is it located
It's in Paoli.
That's all right. I'll have to talk to Bill. I don't know about that.
Chris loves super advanced service worker stuff. Now that topic, I hope. Let's see. What does it say for super advanced service worker stuff? Because I hope that it's not trying to scare people, because service workers is a part of web development that we all probably should get to understand better.
Definitely.
Because it's one step towards allowing your website or web application to work. It's one step towards. This is the only thing service workers do, but it could work offline, which is great because, I mean, nowadays many of us are getting on a plane, and then what are we saying? Like, oh, well, you know, the world doesn't work anymore. Well, with a progressive web app.
I'm actually happy about that, but okay.
I know, but with a progressive web app, your app might still work as long as it doesn't need to go back to the server.
To go back and forth to the server, yeah, that's true.
So I hope that helps. I think a lot of those, you know, there's a lot of good stuff here.
Yeah.
I mean, did that answer your? I mean, I think that answered.
Yeah, I've been looking at all the schedule. I should flip back over into the chat window. So.
Meg's probably like, yeah, stop talking about it. You're giving me too much information. Slow down.
Cool. Nope. She bookmarked the video that we talked about. So this is good. Yep. Good. One other question, just to kind of take us back to what we came out of the sessions with around, talking about the Git and the Git tools. Meg did ask a question about, can you talk about some of the advantages of each tool we went over tonight? She's been using Visual Studio Code with terminal extensions, but considering switching to using Git Lens or Git Kraken. I don't know if you...
Yeah, right. So I think if you're comfortable already in Visual Studio Code, it's hard to beat the fact that you got some Git integration right in there.
Yes. By default, it actually forces you when you first install to connect.
There's no connection at all, right? Like, I mean, there's no extension at all to do simple Git stuff. It
simple stuff, yes.
Git Lens is an awesome addition. I actually hadn't explored it as deeply as Rob had. I had explored the other one he showed called Git History. Okay. And I kind of like looked at Git History and I said, yeah, all right. But then I looked at Git Lens and I was like, wow. That's cool. Well, Git Lens has some code lens-like features, which is something a Visual Studio developer will know what that means. Yeah. So in other words, it showed a line of code and it actually had some gray text that said Chris Gomez committed 8 hours ago or whatever, which is kind of cool. Yeah. Now, as far as like the advantages, so if Visual Studio Code's already your daily driver, I think the Git integration there is probably something you would like. And I'm just being opinionated about it. I'm not a big fan of the Git integration in Visual Studio. It's not broken. It works.
Visual Studio proper?
Yeah.
Really?
It's okay.
I like it in there.
It's okay. I think
interesting.
I feel the same way. You know, I have a separate instance of Visual Studio Code, so I can use the terminal window. So if I'm doing something in Visual Studio Main, I'll do whatever check-ins or whatever codes I need to do and builds and those kind of things. But when I go to commit, I go over to a command line in a terminal in Visual Studio Code.
Right. Rob said the same thing. He said he keeps Visual Studio Code open.
Yeah.
Now I'll tell you what I do, and
that's interesting. I keep Visual. I just do it if I'm in Visual Studio proper. I just do everything.
Well, I said this in the talk. I admit I don't make any bones about it. I keep a copy of Git Kraken open, and it's sitting on a screen. And as I do, I might use it. I might go to command line. That's probably the two major things that I do. And I'll watch the thing happen. I'll commit, and then I'll look, and I'll go, yep, it popped up there, and I'll feel really good about that. So what are the advantages and disadvantages? So GitHub Desktop. So the advantage of GitHub Desktop is it's super easy to use GitHub. I mean, it just walks you right into grabbing your own repositories off of github.com. And as we saw tonight, if you know what you're doing, you can even sync back to the repo that you forked from, which is a super important workflow as a public github.com user. At work, I think the workflow that you tend to fall into, because it's just easier, is we all clone from the same repo that we have push access to, and then we branch so that we don't run into each other.
Yes. I was thinking about what we do at work.
That's what we do at work too.
Yeah.
And
Seems reasonable.
But I will tell you, here's where I diverge, right? Because I've done enough open source work to docs.microsoft.com, I have to do the forking pattern there. You have no other choice. Yeah. So I do it at work too. And I'm weird. I'm weird that I do that. In fact, I think everybody else thinks, like, why do you do that? And it's like, well, I'm used to it. So the advantage of GitHub Desktop, I would say, is direct, easy integration with GitHub. It does simplify the process, but here's where I get nervous. I get nervous that you don't exactly know what's happening under the covers, especially when you say, like, it's better than it used to be. There used to be a sync button on GitHub Desktop that I thought was evil. Now, at the very least, it's telling you that it's fetching from origin, it's fetching upstream, and then we had to go to the menus and merge in the changes. A little more explicit.
Well, Visual Studio, I will admit, so I've been developing for a long time, as Chris knows and as most people know, and I've come from command line to where I moved all into GUI. And one of the reasons I like Visual Studio integration for Git and Git or GitHub is that I can easily just say, and I avoid sync. There, when you're looking at it, you got your sync button, you got your fetch button, you got your pull, push, and sync. And sync will do it all. And I actually avoid it. I do a fetch so I can see what's coming in. And then I look at each one of them because I'm kind of anal. I like to see what's going to come into my branch. Because, yes, I do, like you're saying, we branch. Right. And then I do a pull. If I'm satisfied with it, I don't need to ask anybody questions. Same thing with a push. I actually, when you look at push, you can do, I think it's a push and commit, push and sync, or there's like 3 or 4 options for push under Visual Studio. Right. I do a push onto mine, and then I look at it, and then I do a push, and then I do a commit. And the reason I say all this is I like that abstraction. I can do a command line, but I've gotten lazy and spoiled that the command, the buttons, the Visual Studio, people, and I'll say smarter than me at Microsoft has taken away and made that magic for me that I can just say, hey, go fetch it. I don't need to know the 500 command. It's really one.
And to
but
be
the
clear,
500 commands.
You're talking about the integration in Visual Studio.
Yes.
Which is, we never know what to call it, right? Because it's just called Visual Studio.
It's just Visual Studio.
But everybody wants to call it
sometimes
like main,
Visual Studio proper,
big, classic.
Full.
Whoops, not classic.
Don't call it classic. It's not going away.
Now, so let's get to Git Kraken.
Obsolete.
Because we were talking pros and cons.
Git Kraken, yes.
Here's my pro for Git Kraken. There's 3 of them that I love. One is the commit graph view. I think is superior. I think because Git is a graph of commits that goes in reverse order back through time.
Yeah.
And I think Git Kraken the most clearly represents that. It doesn't try to hide. It just says, here they are. Here's what the graph looks like. And here, by the way, it puts branches as just little pointers to commits. That's how they work. That's the real world, where you go over to GitHub Desktop and you switch a branch, and you're switching it. It actually changes the title and shows you a different history. Yep. It can give you the false sense of oh, well, even though these 2 branches have identical commits in them, they must be separate because I'm changing the drop down.
Right.
Yep.
Git Kraken is going to show you both of those labels pointing at the same exact spot in the commit graph.
Well,
so
you
I
can
like
see that in other tools too, but
Source Tree, Visual Studios, that Git history one was very explicit. Yep. So I'm not saying Git Kraken doesn't have a monopoly on that.
No, it's a good feature.
So number 1, I love the commit graph. Number 2, I like the ability, as I showed, to hide branches and tags so that I can look at a complicated tree and say, but I don't care about the whole graph right now. I care about my feature branch and what I'm committing into.
Yep.
Let me remove the rest of the noise.
Yes.
So I can see that my work so far is a direct descendant of the latest ancestor and master. Yep. So this push is going to be a quick fast forward, boom, and you have a lot of confidence. It's not going to be a big deal. So I just use those terms: push, fast forward, merge commit. Git Kraken also uses that terminology. So when you right click on commits and stuff, it uses the term push, pull, rebase, fast forward. It uses the same terms that these are Git terms.
Yes.
So to your point about abstractions, while it abstracts it visually, it expects you to understand the Git terminology, which is still scary.
Good. Well,
because people will look at Git Kraken and go, "Well, now I don't know what to do." And
That's
I
fair.
get it, because now you got to go learn what a cherry pick is. You've got to go learn what a fast forward is. I think you have to.
I agree. I think it depends on where you're coming from. Like if you're comfortable in a command line, especially if it was Git or maybe even another source control, they kind of use similar terminology. But then if you've grown up where you're like, oh, I'm in Visual Studio, I'm a Visual Studio baby, I'm a TFS person, seeing like fetch and maybe
You're not
not
even sure
so
what
much
fetch means, right? What does it mean?
Well, it doesn't mean what you think it does because the pull does that. The fetch just means, hey, I'm going to go out and tell you what was changed before you pulled in. But I think those commands are more familiar to somebody coming from a TFS Visual Studio background. But I like your pros on that of the being able to see the
it's more of
labels, tags,
a one-to-one. If you want to revert, if you were going to use git revert at the command line, the command in Git Kraken, you'll right-click on a commit and you'll say revert to here.
Yeah, whereas other places it's like rollback or something. So.
And if you were going to do a git reset, they call it a git reset. They even use the hard mixed soft terminology.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, it means you got to know what that means.
Yes.
Because that's not.
So you kind of have to know the command line. I mean, it's one of those ones, that.
And I will say right there, that's the negative to Git Kraken is you end up having. Look, I love it, and I espouse it, and I tell people, I think you should learn how it works anyway.
Yeah.
But the negative is all the baggage of having to learn the deep Git terminology. Yeah. There isn't anybody, like you said, either the Visual Studio plugin or the Visual Studio Code stuff or the GitHub desktop where they've tried to think through common scenarios and push you through them without having to be a wizard.
Kind of navigate you like, this is what you want to do here and this is what you want to do here. Yeah. This is more, hey, we'll give you a visual representation, but you need to understand the terminology. Yeah.
Yep.
So no, that makes sense. So any other questions on that? Or did you have anything else? I was asking Rich if there was we've answered that question, but did you have?
We killed that question.
Yeah, did we kill it yet?
Yeah. So I maybe have lost a little bit of the context here, but also also glow boards looks really useful.
Glow boards. Is that another tool?
Have I completely gone back too far?
Oh, glow boards. Yes. Yeah. No, glow boards is so okay. I had to think. So the
Git expert.
The folks at Axosoft have a second tool now called glow boards, which. I'm going to totally butcher this, and it's totally unfair because I haven't even looked at it. But it kind of looks like Trello or Sprint boards, or in Azure they call it, there's a term for it in Azure. I can't remember what it's called, though. There's an Azure Sprint boards feature in Azure DevOps.
So wait, it's kind of like, so you're talking with the cards.
Yeah, I'm probably being totally unfair because maybe it does your laundry as well.
I can't think of what it's called.
And it might do your laundry and your dishes, and I'm making it sound and I'm making it sound simple. But I got the email that said we now have glow boards, and they said, hey, to help with your workflow, and they showed little boards, and I thought, okay, that's cool. That's all I know. I know how to spell glow boards. I would love to hear more about it, though. Yeah. I mean, to me, that's part of our conversation here is
and
the
you know
tools
what?
You like.
That's actually a good thing. Chris said about hearing more about it. If you see any of us, any speaker, whether it's on a monthly meeting or at the code camp, especially at the code camp, even if you didn't attend their session, walk up to them, say hi, I'm Tony. Don't leave me hanging.
Like this. Hi, Tony. Hi. How are you? Definitely, please.
Chris won't ignore you on code camp.
Isn't that cool?
Wow, what is that? Look at that.
So that is a social pop-up for basically doing social media, and I
look at
didn't completely get all the text out of there, but so I can throw the questions right up there on the screen now. So
we love it.
Sorry.
But Chris won't ignore you like he just tried to leave me hanging. He will say, hey, I'm Chris, and we'll answer your question and talk to you. He is a sociable guy, and so is Rich behind the camera, and any of the speakers. I mean, we're nothing special. No. Nobody's special.
No.
We're just workers like you guys. Yep. We're just out there doing our thing. We just happen to throw ourselves in front of people and make fools of ourselves.
I came to Code Camp before I spoke at Code Camp.
Yes, same here.
And I probably came to 2 or 3 of them, and then I started coming to meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And the only reason why I ever spoke ever is because there was this new thing coming out called Windows Phone.
Oh, you spoke because of that.
And Windows Phone was going to support XNA for games.
Yeah.
And I still like playing with game development, and I had played with XNA, and I said, I bet I could take my little demo game and turn it into a talk, and no one else at that entire code camp will have any idea what I'm talking about. So I hid behind that. I hid behind that idea that, like, I know XNA, and I didn't know it that much, but I knew a little bit. Yeah. But I could build this game. No one here's going to know how to build a game. So I'll be like an expert. And the funny thing about it is, well, actually, here's what it really was. I didn't think I'd get any questions.
Oh, there you go.
Because, like, oops, they don't even know what I'm talking about. Well, it turns out that people actually did treat me as the expert.
Oh, very nice. And
so like, oh, wow, you know a lot about, well, for weeks and months afterwards, like, Chris Gomez knows about game development. And I'm like,
yes. You were Mr. Game Development at that point, from that point
I was
forward.
like, sure. And I even did a few more game dev talks, but I was always honest with people. I said, look, this is a hobby.
Right.
Yeah.
And I will show you how to get to where I'm at. I can't take you past that, but I will get you to where I'm at. And, but then from there, I started branching out and saying, like, man, this Signal R thing looks great.
Yeah, I remember you doing
I think
that.
I'm just going to learn it. And then I said, maybe I'll just show it to everyone.
I remember that. The first time you showed that.
So don't try. That's where the Git stuff comes from, too.
Right.
I beat my head against the wall with Git enough that I finally said, man, I don't want you to do that. So maybe I can help. And I've given these same talks many, many times, and the first one was terrible, and the second one was a little less terrible, and a little less. And I kind of learned, well, here's what people are asking, and I just try to improve it. That's it. That's it.
I mean, like, for my background, how I started talking and helping out with Philly.net, similar to Chris, I actually, and I would sign up. Like, I would go, oh, yeah, free code camp. I'm going to sign up and be free. And I did that about 3 years in a row, and I never showed up. And then one year they had a $20 sign up fee. It wasn't mandatory. It was like, hey, you know, half of it goes to help Philly.net, and half of it goes to, I think at the time it was Alex's lemonade stand. We were doing, helping out charity.
Yeah.
And I paid that, and I came to the code camps, and I just I went to classes, but then like between the classes and at the beginning of the day, I was like, hey, do you need help here? Do you need help? Do you need help?
Yeah, that's what I did too.
Yeah, and I started
just empty trash bags or something.
Yeah, I started emptying trash bags. I started using my loud voice and helping with registration with Rob and Dawn, directing people, and then I was helping with lunches. But like a year or two of that, and then I think 2011 rolled around and Windows 8 came out, and you know, Bill and I were both watching the build event. The 2011 was the second build event where they announced Windows 8, and so we were watching that, and him and I were texting back and forth, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is great. Yeah, it was delusional back then, but I thought it was amazing. And he's like, we need somebody to speak on it. Why don't you put something together? So I said, okay.
He's great for that.
He is great for that.
Well.
So I put something together. I put a hands-on lab type thing together for Code Camp. And all of a sudden, I had like 30 people in the room. I'm like thinking I'd have 5. I had 30 people, similar to you, asking me questions when all I did was basically dig into Windows 8 and try and figure out how to write a simple basic application for it and what the WinRT meant and what the terminology was. I did that, and then I did a monthly hands-on lab where basically I took over the entire thing, and part of it was a presentation and part of it was walking everybody through it step by step. And then I just started speaking about different technologies, and then I branched out, like you said, to less technical topics.
Well, what's interesting about you talking about Windows 8 apps, and remember the name change stuff, Metro style apps, modern apps.
That's why I call
WinRT, UWP, whatever. You worked in that space for a little while.
I did.
Like you were building those apps.
I did.
So
I did that after I gave the presentation. Though.
Right, after the presentation. Yep. So to anyone out there, learn some technology, and I'm talking just learn how to use it. you present it in a forum like this, people come up out of the audience saying, like, we're looking for an expert like you.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you're working in that technology. And if you're just afraid to be here, I'll share that when I first learned that Philly.net was here in Malvern, I didn't go for 6 months because I said, I don't want to go and find out I don't understand, and everybody there's going to be smarter than me. I'm serious.
Everybody is smarter than me, and I'm okay with that.
And that's how I felt in like 2006 or 2007. Yeah. A code camp came and went, and I just watched it go by. I looked at the schedule, and I looked at all the sessions, and I went, boy, I'm scared to death. And I didn't go.
I think that's why I didn't go.
I didn't go. So
the crowd and
the lesson is just to everyone to don't think that we all didn't feel this way.
Yeah.
I didn't go. And then I came. And I sat in the back, and I walked out of a few of them going, boy, I didn't really understand what we talked about tonight. And then a couple times I said, wait, I think I kind of got a couple of those things. Yeah. But more importantly, it was the people who introduced themselves to me. Like Andy Schwamm came up to me. He didn't know who I was. Yep. I'm Andy. And other people do that too here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's what eventually made me comfortable enough to keep coming. And then I just stumbled into that talk. Yeah. And I like giving back, and I like talking with you, so that's why I keep doing it.
Yeah, and I'm kind of similar in coming to the meetings and had similar experience with you guys. But what started off for me was we had those 15 minutes of fame.
Oh yes.
And it's small enough that hey, I can talk for 15 minutes on a topic, especially something I'm passionate about or have an interest in. And that's enough to get the bug, if you will, say, wow, this is pretty cool. I want to do more. And that's why when we have those sessions, I kind of like that's kind of the time for for someone who hasn't done those kind of sessions or the someone who's new to the group to kind of step up and do those. I hate jumping in to say those except to fill space because sometimes we don't always get enough people. But
no, but I think they're great and they're harder than they look.
Yeah.
Hey, don't tell people that.
because here's why, right?
Right.
When you plan to do your first 15-minute talk,
get
yourself a topic that you can explain in 5 minutes.
Yes.
Because the 15 minutes will go by very fast.
Yes. Yeah. That is true.
And that's fine. That's okay. Don't feel like you had to give a complete course in whatever. Yeah. You're teaching one thing.
Yep. In fact, I would even say to take it one step further, if you're going to do an hour-long talk or something, or 75 minutes like at our code camp, hour-long at our monthly meetings, plan on 45 minutes of information.
So what I meant by harder than they look is not that you shouldn't try it.
Right.
No, definitely
try it. What I really
it,
mean is that don't worry about how much time you got to fill. The 15 minutes is going to go by lightning quick.
Yeah.
Teach us all one thing.
Yep.
One thing. That's it.
Yeah.
And I promise you, we will all thank you.
And we do that every year. There's a 15 minutes of fame every year.
Usually like July or August.
It's in the summertime,
July is kids can June is
usually
kids in code.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's probably August then.
So a chance for those who are out there watching.
Do it.
Yep.
I would love to see more new people doing the 15 minutes of fame. And then
or heck, do a monthly talk. If you have an idea, hit me up because I help plan the schedule. And obviously you can hit Rich up or Chris up, and they'll get it to me. But
drop it in the meetups.
Drop it in the meetups.
See those, just or Twitter.
Ping me somehow, and we'll get you on the schedule. I mean, right now we've been focused on Code Camp, so December is a little open, I think, and January, but we're getting into where we need to start ramping up our monthly meetings. Now we will pull a couple people from our Code Camp that were popular talks and say, hey, would you mind redoing these? So, a talk that you didn't get the chance to go see at Code Camp, or you were watching from home and only saw the Envision Center ones. Well, guess what? A couple of the talks that you were like, hey, I really would have liked to see this. Let us know, because if there was a talk that you didn't get a chance to see because there were two conflicting ones, if we hear enough that, hey, I really would have loved to see, Joe talk about X, I'll work with that and get that person to do a monthly meeting, and then they're online. So.
All right. So have we rambled enough for tonight?
I think we ramble enough all the time. Any more questions before we?
No. Just that
Chris and I can ramble for
Oh, yeah.
hours.
Yeah.
Chris, Rich, and I will stand in the parking lot.
Yeah.
That's the parking lot back there. See those nice stars out there? So we will just stand in the parking lot and do this as opposed to make you guys laugh.
Right. And
I am the comic relief if you haven't figured that out.
Yeah.
But that's why we're here. We're here for you. We're here to extend this
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
Let it out for everyone.
Yeah, we want you guys to be part of it.
Yep.
Yep. And yeah, I mean, we've been doing this. Part of the other reason, we're adding this on is we've been doing this for a year. All of the live streaming, all of the events. Not only starting out with Philly.net, but now Philly Azure, doing the code camps, doing the Global Azure Boot Camp. Second time around again now for Philly Azure, and also for Code Camp, and then also doing the live streams across the Twitch and the Mixer and the YouTube. And all of that, when you look at the numbers of people who watch the archive stuff out of YouTube, it's just started to trend upwards as a result of all of that. So this is just another thing to try out and see what takes hold and takes off.
See what people want to watch. Yeah.
Exactly. So,
335 subscribers on YouTube I saw today.
yeah.
Nice.
And every time I walk in there, I see that little bell, a couple more new subscribers. So people are finding us, and
Yeah.
we have some folks that are regulars, from other countries, which
Yeah,
I love. That's just so amazing.
Well, and there's people who have moved from the Melbourne area out to like Colorado who watch us too.
Yeah, yeah.
So before we jump out of here, I will put one quick plug in for because Philly Azure, we've been promoting that as one of the cool things on YouTube is that when you get to 100 followers, or 100 subscribers, you can change your URL and get a vanity URL.
Yep.
We pushed that really hard at the Philly.net side, and within a couple of months, we got that up and running. On the Philly Azure side, we pushed that really hard last month, and they've gotten their subscribers across that line, so they just hit 100, and Tim has gone through and done that. One of the other groups that we want to make sure gets that same bit of following and I guess subscriber love, if you will, is our fellow friends over at Tech Bash. So we did a session with them, our pilot session, if you will, for this Philly.night, where we promoted and had a great conversation with Jason and Andy. And we just want to try and see. We need 19 more subscribers to get them up over 100, so we can get their channel across that line of getting that vanity URL. So,
and that
Did
channel
you
right there,
Chris, by the way?
Yeah, I'm subscribed to
Make
Tech
it
Bash
all of
Dev
his
Conference.
accounts.
But you go to YouTube, you search for Tech Bash Dev Conference, and you will watch a keynote from Scott Hunter.
Yeah.
Where he talked a little bit about. First, he started off talking about how did he come to be involved with .NET, building .NET, the program manager director of .NET, and it morphed into where .NET is going. And he even took some very interesting questions from the audience about the future of .NET Framework, because I think the whole world assumes that .NET Framework,
dead, isn't it?
Isn't it dead? And he said .NET Framework. I mean, you can watch for yourself. He explained why .NET Framework is here almost literally forever because components in Windows use .NET Framework. There are components and I think he called out IIS Manager, but I'm not. You got to go watch the stream.
Isn't that dead?
You got to go watch the stream. He named them. He named a few, and he says, "How can .NET Framework go away?
Yeah,
these components use it." And it's so great to hear that from Scott, who is such a great presenter.
I'm just saying, WinRT is the future.
Yeah, WinRT.
Sorry.
So anyways, that Tech Bash channel is the only place you can see that keynote that was live from the Poconos. What a great conference that was too. So definitely, a lot of stuff going on here, and then try to make sure you all know about it.
Definitely. So if you have questions, comments, or things you want to hear us do or talk about, certainly love to recap the sessions we did, from the full-on session that we streamed. But like Chris said, we're here for you guys. So with that.
So Rich, where can they find you on the webs?
Me on the webs?
Yes.
So I do have, and I was working on lower thirds for all of us. But
we'll eventually have to get our information up there, right?
You can. I do have a Twitter account, Rich_Ross.
So that's Rich_Ross.
Right.
Yep, that's me. So don't be confused with Rick Ross, which some people tend to do. It happens. You'd be surprised. But there or over on LinkedIn, where I am When am I on LinkedIn?
He's not sure what he is on LinkedIn.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not. I should be. That's a
Just
bad-
look for Richard Ross on LinkedIn.
Well, and if you're not
you'll
watching
find
this
him.
live, if you're watching our repeat and you made it all the way to the end, then you can hear me say to like this video,
Yeah.
subscribe to the channel, and comment down below so we know what you want us to talk about.
Yes.
Yep.
And Chris, where can they find you on the webs?
On Twitter, I'm SpaceShot, which is SPACESHOT.
Hey, I
Awesome.
heard there's this thing called Mixer. Are you on Mixer
I
too?
do. I am on Mixer, although I don't have that channel. I have SpaceShot with a dash at the end.
Okay.
I would love to change that, but that's okay. So I do stream on Mixer. I stream video games, but I also stream coding. And sometimes when I'm working on these presentations, I just turn on the stream. And what I'm hoping is if I could build that audience, which again, it's brand new, but build that audience of, hey, I'm working on this. You want to come talk about it?
Yep. And you want to share your LinkedIn or anything like
I
that?
don't even remember what I am on LinkedIn.
I know that's.
I'm not.
Am I the anyway?
Yeah, you might be the only one.
I might be the only
I
one.
should be more active on LinkedIn, and
You
I'm
should
not.
be, so.
Oh.
So for me, I'm Tony Ver Jr. So it's TonyVerJr on Twitter, and on LinkedIn, I'm just search for Tony Vergoldi.
So one last question: Are
Oh.
We're
Okay.
gonna do at Code Camp. We're gonna do the interviews and we're gonna do the in between sessions.
Yes.
Because we don't have the after party, are we doing an after show for Code Camp?
Oh, what an interesting
thought about
idea,
that.
huh? Because Saturday we
Uh,
don't have to get out of here on Saturday, right?
That's right. So we can order in some pizzas and just hang here and
Oh wow.
and talk about everything we saw. Right?
Yeah,
Maybe bring Bill, a couple people to come through and talk. You know.
that's a good idea.
I like that,
love
Meg.
that
Thank
idea.
you.
Yeah. It's an interesting idea.
So
Yeah.
you may see that happen.
We'll probably
No commitments yet.
We'll announce it the Saturday of.
Yeah, guest interviews, yeah, that might be something as well. So,
Well,
Yeah. Well, you're definitely doing the guest interviews in
Right.
between the session. In between,
Yes.
Yeah. On Saturday only, not Friday.
what we depending on how. So this is going to be live TV.
yep,
So if a speaker can get in here, we might ask some final questions from the audience or just chat a little bit more.
yeah,
Now, there isn't a lot of time. It's only a 15-minute transition. And we have to be mindful of the fact that very, very often the speaker comes off the podium and a few people walk out and they have another conversation. And that may take the whole interval. And if that happens, it happens.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it'll definitely be a little bit of welcome to live streaming. And if we can't get the speaker in, then maybe we'll get another Philly.net member to just sit with us for a few minutes and just ask them, what do you do? And
Yep.
And what do you have for the community? That's it.
Yeah. Cool.
Or us.
Yeah,
I
you've
think
always
they're
got
tired
us.
of us already.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Awesome. So we've got some good stuff coming. This is going to be a good session. We're looking forward to having you guys all come out here and watch. So as I look for this one, no, not that one.
Have a good night, sir.
Have a dramatic send off.
No, it's not. I'm just switching back to you
Oh.
guys. That's
All
all.
right.
Oh, jeez.
So thanks everyone. Have a great night and.
See you later.
See you next time.